Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back to my studio and the second painting of my story series. This story is actually inspired by something that happened to me firsthand several years back. Me and my, then boyfriend, husband, were with some friends visiting the lovely island of Puerto Rico. If you haven't been, go. Specifically, we went to go see this fabulous rainforest nature preserve on a mountain called Yunque. And when I tell you that this was probably the most beautiful, amazing, spiritual, transcendental place I have ever visited in my life, I'd still be selling it short. Go see this. We walked through this lovely rainforest and the mists and the haze, and it was all dewy and nice. I felt like I was in a shampoo commercial. Keep going up higher till you get to like the bottom of the clouds, and they're like, keep going. You're like, what? You're like, keep going. So we walk continually up this mountain through the clouds, through the mist. You can't even see like 2 feet in front of you. And then suddenly out of nowhere are these ruins of this Spanish mission at the topmost of this mountain, like a castle in the clouds. You climb up to the tower, you sit and you look out. The clouds end here. Up above it's just heavens, and down below is this like misty, dreamy expanse of these little mountaintops. Again, it was the most transcendentally spiritual, emotional moment, I think, one of them at least, that I had ever had. I have difficulty putting this into words. So today, let's paint it. So as always, I am going to be working with the barest amount of materials for this. I'm working with acrylics because they dry super fast. 5 colors is all you need if you want to follow along. Just red, yellow, blue, a little bit of black and white. Also, I'm going to use a few ranges of brushes, keeping it very small. If you are following along, depending on the size of your canvas, justify proportionately, but I want a nice, pretty good big old fat brush for covering a lot of surface area. Something a little in the medium department. Probably something with just a little bit of a fine tip on it there for those nice details, should we need them. And as always, I will be featuring my favorite artist's implement, which is Yield painter's knife, palette knife. I love her so much. Also, if you are following along at home, just need a simple rag or a paper towel somewhere, and a little cup or something with a little bit of water in it just for cleaning your brushes out, etc. Also, if you do not have the luxury of a palette, then a simple paper plate. It's just something to kind of mix some colors up with will do. All right, let's do this. So just like last time, in lieu of canvas, I am working on just some basic brown wrapping paper. I've taped it down. I have also sort of preemptively covered it with just a very light kind of general wish-wash of white paint, just because I want to, for this one, have a really nice, bold colors right out the gate. So if you are already working on canvas or just white paper, you don't need to do this step. But after I've laid down just kind of a basic coat of white, to start, I'm going to use that biggest brush I got. I'm going to get her a little on the wet side. I don't want her like super drip in, but just a little moisture to help. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a little bit of blue and white together on my canvas, or excuse me, on my palette there. A little bit of blue and white, nothing fancy, nothing terrifying, just kind of getting a little bit of a light sort of baby robin's egg, Carolina blue color, I don't know, somewhere in there. I'm not actually going to mix this perfectly. I want to leave it a little bit streaky, a little bit unblended, if you will. And coming up to my canvas, literally just everywhere, I'm going to fill this on top with another nice kind of light zhuzhing, if you will, of this kind of baby blue. And I'm not going to do any basic kind of back and forth or up and down strokes, sticking to the ye old school of Bob Ross painting. The best way to cover a large bit of area with just kind of a general wash of color is to make these little kind of X's, these little sort of overlapping crisscross things. X, 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 X. Using that to cover up this entire space with just a general wash. I'm not covering up completely. I want to leave a little bit of room for this kind of white background to kind of peekaboo through, but just a very nice general wash of these overlapping crisscrosses of my XXXXXXX's. If you're like me, you have a lot of them, so put them to good use for this one. Now, this is a very old brush. She has been in the family for quite a while. She's a little busted up. Her bristles are not quite as soft or as even as they used to be. I like this though, because this sort of degradation of the bristles, if you will, allows for some very interesting strokes and some very interesting sort of natural accidents to happen as you're painting. So if you don't have the access to the best brushes, if you're working with just some sort of old kind of dirty, I think this might have even been at one point in time used to paint the walls of an old apartment, but I love her and I believe in upcycling if we can. So if I can use her, I'm going to get a good amount of use out of her. And for this especially, since I want to create an intentionally sort of raucous, lopsided, messy, spotty situationship, this brush works perfect. I love you, girl. As y'all are throwing all of these kind of crisscross XXX's around, or at least while I'm doing it, like I said before, I'm intentionally not trying to blend this color too well. I want to leave some moments that are definitely a bit more on the blue side, some moments that are definitely a bit more on the white side, some dark patches, some lighter patches. This is the step where if you are following along and it's looking a little kind of weird and crazy, then it is probably right. So kind of like how she's sort of naturally creating these sort of tones and textures, almost very billowy and, dare I say, cloud-like. I think just because I want to give it this sense of elevation, that we've got a very strong sense of building from the heavy natural earth, going up into something a bit more heavenly. I'm going to use a little bit more of that just kind of natural sort of dark cobalt blue. And I want to make sure that I want to keep this kind of bottom half. I want to throw a bit more darker color, a bit more heavy layers of paint, just kind of on this bottom half. And just kind of randomly, sporadically letting my brush, my wrist, and my playlist make a lot of these artistic choices for me. Now, after I got a general wash of all this lovely kind of messy, XY crisscross blue business, I'm going to stick with that same big girl brush, right? And that same kind of light blue that I kind of mixed up with. And I'm going to take that big girl brush and I'm going to dip just the tip of it, literally just a little bit, into a little bit of yellow right there. I want to mix that little bit of yellow into my puddle of blue, to give it a nice kind of green, right? And then coming back up here, again, just kind of keeping it maybe a little more on the sort of southern, we'll say kind of southern right side of my canvas. I'm going to add a little bit of that green overlapping. Same crisscross shapes, same flick of the wrist. Just adding a tiny little whisper, a suggestion, an innuendo, if you will. Some green floating in there too. Oh yeah, maybe she goes up a little bit, I don't know. Just down. Nice. Now I'm gonna mix a little bit more of that blue and yellow together. Maybe a little bit more yellow into it. A nice kind of vibrant verdant verde. Getting a nice green on that brush. And then I'm going to come back down here, maybe just say, I don't know, maybe coming down around these edges or something. I'm going to add a bit more color, and rather than doing this XXX business that we've done so far, just to switch it up a little bit, I'm going to take the tip of that big girl brush with all that color on it, and like a stamp, I'm going to take it and I'm just going to start to tap. That's a loud canvas. But I'm just going to tap, 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 tap. Very lightly. A little bit of color up in there. Just to give it that sort of interesting texture, right? This is a very old school Bob Ross style of painting, kind of distant trees, and foliage, and flora, and greenery, goodness. I love this. This is also a wonderful catharsis for any artists at home who feel like they got a little bit of, let's say, pent-up frustration that they need to get out on the canvas, and a good little sometimes helps. But I don't really have a game plan in mind for this, other than I'm going to say that I gotta keep the elevation of the mountain is going to be more over here on the left side. So I'm going to use that same brush, and actually I've got my two colors right next to each other, right? And I'm kind of splitting the difference with that brush, putting a little bit more yellow on one side and a little more blue on the other. And rather than blending that together on my palette, I'm going to do that directly on my canvas. And as I come and as I sort of tap, 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 these colors over each other, you see the blue kind of gets down and gives the sense that we got some dark shadows up there. The yellow up top is the idea of we've got some highlights, like there's some lovely sun kind of peekabooing. Oh, if you switch it, that makes interesting. That might become part of our mission there. But I'm gonna kind of work my way down, almost at a little bit of a diagonal. Starting over here, about, we'll say about midway down this left side. Just kind of back and forth, up and down, almost like I'm creating a sense of a wave. Adding some of this all the way down to that bottom corner, yes. Yeah. Oh, the road coming right down there. We got a lovely mountain. And before this paint gets too much of an opportunity to dry, I'm going to take that same brush and very lightly, very gently, barely touching the canvas, I'm just going to pull some of this color straight up. Let's give the sense we've got a little bit of vertigo happening. Maybe she comes down a little bit too. I don't know. Pull some of that color down from the top. Oh, that's kind of nice. Oh, that's kind of nice. There was this euphoric sense of a lack of direction when I was up there. I remember feeling very, almost like vertigo disoriented about what was up and what was down and what was kind of all around. Everything was just this sort of, that dreamy first like 10 seconds when you wake up and your brain is not quite awake, but your body's starting to, and it's just sort of ether. I want to capture that. Let's capture that. Now for this next step, I'm going to switch over to my favorite girl, Ye Olde Painter's knife. And I'm going to mix a little bit more of that blue and white, that kind of light blue that we started with at the very beginning. All right. But I'm also going to add just the tiniest little bit of black into her. It's sort of like smoky, sort of blue-gray. That's really pretty. She's really pretty. Maybe a touch more black. I don't know. And same deal with all of this. I'm not blending this color perfectly. It's very classically me to leave a little bit of streaky, a little bit spots that are a little more blue, a little more black, a little more white. I want the eye to actively do the mixing, looking at it, as opposed to mixing it and then putting it on two-dimensionally. But with this kind of blue-gray business, I'm going to come up here and start shaping out now this mission, this Spanish mission, this literal castle on a cloud. It's like this old ruined tower, something out of Game of Thrones, I don't know. But I'm going to put her over here. And again, same thing, everything was so misty, so dreamy, that rather than creating something very realistic, I want to give more of the illusion to this structure. So kind of like how we did with our last video, I'm going to kind of start somewhere, I don't know, I'm going to say right smack dab down here along the bottom. And with that painter's knife, with that gray, blue-gray business on it, I'm going to start, press my knife, that nice flat edge, right against the bottom of my canvas. And as I pull upward, straight upward, I'm getting very, very soft and very light with my touch. Letting the paint sort of create these own little sort of bubbles, these little sort of splash effects. Letting the paint react to the imperfections. I hate that word. The unique texturizations, that's a better one, of my canvas. Maybe I'll do some lengthwise, some sidewise. There was a bit of a walkway that made it up there before you got to the tower itself. Add a little bit of black to this. And get this nice main tower nice and dark there. And I'll say she starts right about there. And I just kind of pull up, letting the paint do what she wants to do. All the way up. This is another step where if you're like me and you got a little bit of a shake to your wrist, that comes in handy, because that'll let the paint knife sort of skip and dance over this canvas. Make her a little bit darker. A little bit darker over here. Let's see if she can guess. Oh yes, and then she just lifts and disappears into the clouds. Ah, amazing. Cool, I want to give her a little bit more structure. Sorry, just a little bit of white, just kind of right on that edge. Pull that up a little bit. Oh, got some yellow on my finger, that's fun. Oh, and now there's yellow there on the canvas. I love her. Maybe she's a little fleck of sunlight coming in. Coming through all of these clouds. Put another line. It's kind of shooting straight up. I'm just kind of pulling this paint as straight up as I can, letting it run out on its own. There we go. Oh, we go. All the way up. Nice. She's got a little dark shadow that comes down here, sort of trace along the edge of this cliff. Yeah. You know what? While I got that painter's knife out, I want to mix a little bit of this black, a bit more of this blue. I want to get a really dark, kind of blue-gray navy. It's kind of fun. Let's see, we got so much light going on, but light is nothing without shadow, so maybe I will take that down here. Same idea, just kind of pulling up, very lightly holding it, painter's knife knows what she wants to do. So I'm just letting her play. Remembering there's dark shadows that trace down the edge of some trees. Not too far from my tower. So maybe I'll let some of this really, really dark sort of blue-black take her place. Oh. I'm doing a lot of layers over and over this paint. There will be moments where you see where it kind of blends together, moments that are very distinctively one on top of the other. I like that. Again, I don't want to blend things too much, because I studied a lot of Impressionists in school. I'm an old pointillist kind of guy, so I love the idea of things that look really kind of blended and lovely from a distance, and as you get closer to them, your eye starts to separate and you can see all of the individual colors that went in to creating this illusion of a flat color distance. But this is fun. I don't even know. There's a little bit, some shade. I want to give a very marked difference between the top and all of this sky, open sky, and this dark, heavy rainforest that was below us. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that darker color. Maybe I'll even mix a little bit of yellow in it to it. What does that do? Ooh, okay. Ooh, blue, black, and yellow. That painter's knife. Some really kind of nice, deep forest green. Let's say I don't know. Yeah, I got some in this corner here. Some over there too. Yeah, maybe I'll just go right across this bottom edge. Throw some of this nice, interesting, deep forest green. Ooh, look how she blends in with that gray. All that interesting stuff she's doing. That's cool. That's cool. I like you. I like where this is going. I gotta clean this girl. I'm gonna give my painter's knife a second to hang out, dry, think about herself. And I'm gonna go back to brush. I'm gonna go back to this kind of middle-sized medium brush. It's about an inch wide. And I'm gonna mix a little more black and white together. A little heavier on the black this time. I get a really nice dark gray. Actually, I'm gonna get a little more black. Come here, girl. I'm gonna come up here to this sort of top left space where my tower is. And mirroring that idea that we did with the painter's knife, where we kind of started below and sort of pulled up, I'm gonna kind of mirror switch it. And with that brush, where the tip of my tower is, stick it, and just very gently, very lightly pull down. Getting lighter and lighter with my touch. So she just goes to where she wants to go. And I'll give her a little friend there next to her. Just barely touching the canvas. Gentle, tender touches. First date touches. Well, I don't know your first date, but very, very respectfully, very, very lightly. Running my brush down. We had a bridge. Love her. All right, I want to get a little bit more black, darken her down just a little bit. There was another little like outpost thing that was right here, right before you got there. Yes. Maybe I'll do a little bit. Oh yes. Oh yes. And then maybe I'll mix a little bit more white back in, get her shade of 2 lighter, come over here. She just kind of crisscrosses. goes down. Love. Ooh, look at that. Look, as I'm working with this brush, she's picking up a lot of this green. Might still be wet below. And that's actually turning into my favor because the stones and stuff of the mission had a lot of lichen, a lot of moss and stuff kind of growing off of it. So I wonder if I mix a little bit of this yellow into this gray. Oh, ooh, that's pretty. I'll throw a little bit of her up in there too. Just kind of dragging that color down. Yes. These grays are beautiful. But I really want to feature a lot of these greens and blues. We had so much red and gold in our last painting together. I really want to write a bit of a love letter to nature here in praise of all she does for us. So I'm going to keep her more on the greens and blues side. This is coming together. I'm liking this. If you are following at home, you are enjoying yours too. It's a nice, fast and loose game of no wrong choices. So the stakes are very, very low. The only obligation for this kind of artwork, these stories that I am sort of retelling, is for us to enjoy them, to have fun, to process, and hopefully find ways of communicating that are innovative and a joy to create. Oh, I'm having fun today. Okay, so next is the really, really exciting step where we're gonna hold for like 2 or 3 minutes and literally watch this paint dry. So have a cup of coffee, have a glass of wine, check on the kids, call your mom. I should call my mom. Be right back. All right, welcome back, beautiful humans. Moms have been called, coffee has been sipped, and paint has had a second to dry, so let's jump in. For this next step, I'm going to introduce a new tool for this. We've had our brushes, we've got my lovely painter's knife, but to create this kind of misty atmosphere, I'm going to use just a very basic, very simple old school sponge. Now, depending on what sponges you have lying at home, if you want to participate, kitchen sponge should do just fine. This is an artist sponge, which doesn't mean anything other than it's got a lovely Rubenesque shape and has been purchased at an art supply store. Another shout out to Blake. Love you, girl. But I'm going to use this little squishy sponge brush, and actually using this kind of fat wide side, which I haven't before. I'm going to go into a little bit of, what do I want to do? I'm going to get a little bit of blue right here on my sponge, right? And in fact, might even put a little bit of yellow on her too. I don't know, not really mixing. And starting down here at the bottom, I don't know, kind of going over all of this lovely stuff that we've done before, not to cover up completely, but I'm going to tap a little bit out of there. If I tap this on the palette, and then come up here, and I'm just going to tap in some of this color. Oh, look at that. Just a little bit more blue. Let's get a little bit more yellow on it. And down here, just sort of over all of this, kind of sporadically, just kind of randomly. But I am paying attention to some of these darker corners. They probably have a bit more shadow in them. So probably a bit more blue. This is kind of softening up all of this lovely brush strokes and streaks and rough edges and stuff that we've done before. Just kind of giving them a light wash, not covering up completely. You know, I want to leave a little bit for this to peekaboo through. Just getting a little bit of color, kind of consensually, respectfully double dipping a little bit. A little bit of blue, a little bit of yellow, and then just coming back up, just kind of tracing over all this. Pat, 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 pat. Oh yes, yes, yes. Maybe I'll even put a little bit more yellow in here. Just kind of right down here, sort of right underneath our bridge, right? We got a little bit of, let's say we got some soft sunlight coming down, hitting up on that bridge, right? Oh yeah. Oh, that's so soft and lovely. Oh, that's so soft and lovely. Now I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to continue to do this little, just sort of tapping, this light spongy color, this nice soft, hazy mist of color around. Let me get a little bit more blue on my palette. But as I move up my canvas, every time I go to put a little more paint on my sponge, I think I'm going to mix a little bit more white into it as I go. Yeah. So as I get higher and higher up towards the clouds, ooh, look at that. She's fun. She's fun. This color just gets lighter and lighter. And I'm not blending this in perfectly. I'm, again, just kind of leaving moments for it to sort of sit on top, hang out, create these layers of depth, this dimension. There was this sense of like endlessness, of not being able to see in front of you, but also knowing it could go on forever. Literally a drop off a mountain. I want to capture that in this. So I want the viewer of this painting to really have to look, to take the moments, to peer through all of this and see all of this beautiful color, see all these directions, feel the shape of these roots, of these trees, this old, ancient monument to colonialization, just appearing ever so softly, ever so quietly, ever so majestically out of these clouds. Now do this until you think, oh gosh, I've done too much, and then probably do a little bit more, and then you're good. I think I might even actually add some of this lighter mist kind of floating down here in the bottom. Because we did seriously look out and see the tops of clouds floating literally right past our faces. Coolest thing. So let's put some clouds down here as well. Oh, look at that. All of this tapping has sort of covered up that little oopsie I made a bit before with that yellow. The universe just wanted that to happen. Love it. Now, one of the staples of a Lilly painting is my incorporation of metallics on top of a lot of matte colors. So usually done with bars that I tape out very specifically structured elements, sometimes in like a liquid gold paint, other times in gold leaf on top of gold paint. But to switch it up for this piece, because this piece is very organic, very nature specific with this, rather than very structured bars, I'm still going to incorporate some gold, but I think rather than blocking out exactly where these things go, I'm going to let nature take its course. So let's see what happens if I take a decent amount of gold paint and right along this top edge, if I just decide to take it and let her drip down. Let's a little bit more there. And see where she wants to go. Just to see what's going to happen, because I feel like playing around today. I'm going to use that sponge that we used about a step back. I've rinsed her off, but I've got her nice and full of squishy water. If I just take that right along the top, and let this paint be a little wet, just drip. Give her some legs to her, yes. Now, if you're working on paper like me, this is going to react differently than if you're working on canvas. The paper is going to naturally wrinkle and thin down a little bit. Yeah. If I take just the tip of this good old palette knife here, while this paint's a little wet, not really guiding it so much, it's just kind of pulling it down in whatever direction it's decided it wants to go. No straight lines, no straight lines. Ugh, so much straight in the world. No offense, straight people, I love you. Mwah. That's rude. Scratch that. No straight lines. Just pulling that down a little bit. Idea we got through all of this darkness, all of this layers of mist and stuff. It's always just a little bit of golden sunlight pouring through. Oh. So coming up to meet her. That is gorgeous. Oh my God. I love her. I think she's done. The last thing we do, obviously, for every painting is sign it. So I'm going to use that little skinny baby girl brush. And you know what? Why not? Let's use the one color that we never got to play with today, which is this lovely little bit of scarlet red. And I'm just going to sign it down here in the bottom right, which is my usual signature spot, but if you got a better place to put it, go for it. Ah, love her. She's cute. She's done. So once again, you can find her original painting or prints available on my website. And if you have a story or a theme or a prompt that you would like me to visually interpret, let me know. Send me a message. Send me a tip. I don't know. Let's make some art. Stay fabulous. Stay creative. And I'll see you next time.